We get a major Brock Boeser update, including him revealing the truth on his injury that he suffered during the playoffs. We're going to break down this and more later on this episode. Before we start, I just want to give a huge shout out to the almost 4,500 of you guys that are subscribed. To everyone watching this video, it's completely free. If you want to join the Canucks Digest community, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be covering everything to do with the Canucks this offseason going into next season. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Brock Boeser speaks out. Now, obviously, Brock Boeser is a fan favorite, and he did speak out to the media today at a golf charity tournament. He said, coming off the blood clots, I've got a lot to prove, just kind of dealing with that little setback. So I'm going to focus on having a great camp, again, like I did last year, trying to have a fast start to the season. You can look at Brock, and Brock had a phenomenal season. 81 games, which was his career high in games played, 40 goals, 33 assists for 73 points, 204 shots. You can pause this and look down at Brock was on fire last season. We've seen Brock continue to be on fire going into the playoffs, and he does continue on to say, I was on blood thinners for a few months during the summer. I could still skate and stuff, but I had to be careful contact-wise. But I've been off them for a little bit now, and I've got to start doing contact towards the end of the summer. Yeah, it's obviously something that we look back on, and it was a tough scenario, but I'm happy to move forward and really focus on the season. Now, Griffen, just looking at this, seeing Brock just coming out and speaking on the blood clots he was dealing with, do you think he's going to go into the season with more of just, he wanted more of a drive to make a statement, make an impact on this team once again?
Absolutely. I think he's going to make that impact. I think without a doubt, he is the most clutch player that we have. When you look at his goals and the points scored, he didn't total as much as the other three on the core four, but he was scoring the biggest goals in the biggest moments when they mattered. That hat trick against Nashville, the late game goals that he was scoring, or just when he would have those multi-goal games. He was the definition of clutch and putting the team on his back when they needed points. So I think he's going to come into next season even more hungry, despite the injury where he did play a full season. But he knows that if he was playing in Game 7, we would have won that game. We would have been on to Dallas, and we would have smushed Dallas and moved on to the Stanley Cup final against Florida. And he knows that they were one game away from doing that, and he knows that he could have been that X factor and that difference maker. So he's going to come into this season very hungry and ready to prove everyone wrong that says that he's done, that he's past his prime in a Vancouver Canucks team where we've seen guys past the age of 28, 29 continue to have great seasons. We saw with JT Miller just last season. So don't doubt that Brock Boeser is going to come into this season even hungrier. And people called me crazy for saying that he was, but like, and jokingly saying 100 points, but people thought I was crazy for saying that. But if he's able to push for 80, even into 85-point territory, I think it's going to be huge for Vancouver going forward and getting this offense the legs under them that they need throughout the entire season.
And the main thing is obviously Brock's health, him coming back, him being off the blood thinners, with all of this going behind him, is a major upgrade for him. And it is just awesome to see the guy finally getting healthy going into the start of the year. But looking at Brock was so productive. You talked about on the chance of him maybe hitting 100 points, and I think it is very possible. We've seen him score 40 goals, 33 assists for 73 points. He's getting more firepower added to this Canucks offense. It's going to make things easier on him in the playoffs. 12 points in 12 games, including 7 goals and 5 assists. The biggest thing with Brock is he's been around for so long. He's been a productive player on this Canucks team, continually getting better. The funniest thing is when I was looking at this in 2016-17, 17-18, Brock played with both Sedins, and it doesn't even feel real that he's been around this long. But him coming back, having a productive season, could you see him maybe hitting 50 goals going into next year?
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think if anything, he'll have more goals and assists because he is just that guy who's going to get this offense jump started. He's known to get his line mates going in that sense as well. But I think he's going to just do the best that he can, especially with these new weapons Vancouver has to play with. I think he's going to set them up nicely. They're going to set him up nicely. And again, he's coming into a year where people think he's done. People think that he's counted out, especially with that injury. He's coming back in this season very, very hungry. And I think 50 goals, it might be a little bit of an overreach, maybe around the 40-45 area. But again, maybe in the postseason, totaling up to that, maybe he hits 50 through that mark. But I think it's still going to be a great season to watch for Brock Boeser. Is coming back off that injury. I think he's almost back to 100%. He's ready for contacts very soon. He knows he has to get back into that, get himself used to being game worn and a little bit roughed up here and there within the practices. So he's ready for game time, just speed and aggressiveness. I think he's going to just shine through that. And I think he's going to be an even more instrumental member of this core four.
And to continue on talking about the recent additions, he does talk about them and says, I think all the guys that we added are guys that are going to make a difference. Just by skating with them, I think that their stand stand out is they all compete hard. They're all going out there and putting their work boots on, and I think that's going to be huge for a group. Not saying other guys didn't, but just kind of rounding out our forward group. They're all great guys. I can't wait to get going. And this was him, obviously, at the Jake Milford charity tournament today when he was doing an interview with the media. But this is the biggest thing, is obviously this team was one game away from making the conference finals in the West against the Dallas Stars. This was a team that lost their best goal scorer in Brock Boeser going into Game 7. They lost their starting goalie in Thatcher Demko, and they were still just on the crisp of making the Western Conference Finals. A team that could have made the finals, like you said, and put up a good fight against the Florida Panthers. Overall, bringing these players, all these new faces on the Canucks, like Brock says, he says they're ready to put their boots on. It's going to be a great group, and I think this is going to really propel this team and make that big push. I know a lot of people in the media are counting the Canucks out and saying it was almost a Cinderella run, but I think they're going to go deeper next year. They have a better group, an experienced group. Everyone is getting better. But the biggest question with this Canucks team, with Brock Boeser, is really going into the contract extension may become tricky. Now, when you do look at this team, obviously Brock is a guy that everyone wants back. It seems the media wants him back. He wants to be back. The Canucks want him back. The players want him back. But when you're really going through to look at this team, Brock is going to go in looking for a raise. Obviously, he's making $6.65 million this season. The following season, he will be a UFA. But there is a lot of contracts coming off the book. Pius Suter's $1.6 million will be off the book. I'm not sure if he's going to come back, if he's going to look for a raise. You have guys like PDG. You have guys like Derek Forbort coming off the books. The biggest thing with this is OEL's contract is going to go up. $2.3 million against the cap this season coming. The following season, it will go up to $4.7 million. So they do lose out on around $1.4 million in additional cap there. But Griffen, looking at Brock, looking at how productive he was last season, if he does it again, do you think it's crazy to say he might get $8.5 million?
I don't think it's crazy, but I think the thing with Brock is that we've heard reports that he might be willing to stay in Vancouver for a lot cheaper or around the same price that we're looking at least a lot cheaper than what people are projecting. And it'll be a little bit more than what he's making now, but he just loves being in Vancouver, being with this team. And with that quote about with playing with these new additions, he is ready to get hungry and is embodying what this Rick Tocchet system is. He's finally got the coach that he's always needed and always wanted in Rick Tocchet. So why would he leave an ideal situation where they have the pieces to go out and win a cup, where he was one of those X factors? So him knowing that, okay, as long as I'm healthy and as long as our goaltender is solid, I know that we have a chance to go to the Stanley Cup, and I know that we have a chance to make it there. And I think just that alone is enough to make him want to stay in Vancouver, paired with how he is so ingrained in this city. It's where he's always been. Might as well be where he always stays. It would be awesome to see him just finish his career as a Canuck. And I think with these additions that they might have to only have for a rental year, we saw a lot of short-term deals that just to make it out of the cap hell that they were in heading into this offseason. I think there's a few of those pieces where I know the season hasn't even started yet, but when you're looking at Brock Boeser, he's your most clutch goal scorer. Maybe you can afford to lose some of those pieces like Derek Forbort, Sammy Blais, and some other guys, and Filip Hronek, like you mentioned, where if it's Brock Boeser we're talking about, those guys are worth losing if you can keep Brock Boeser around for a few more years and just save money against the cap. But that OEL contract is going to be a big speed bump going forward.
And the biggest thing is you're looking at this Canucks team. A lot of the players are locked up for 2+ years, other than a few guys, obviously with Hoglander. You have guys like Brock Boeser, but this core is locked up for the next couple seasons. They have prospects coming up through the systems. Their window is just opening. We're only first getting the touch of what this Canucks team's going to do. This is going to be a team that's going to push and win the Stanley Cup within the next 2, 3, or 4 years. Canucks fans, be excited as we are, because this team is going to do wonders, and Brock Boeser is going to be a major part of that. What were your guys' thoughts on everything we talked about? What's your thoughts on Brock coming back? What do you think he's going to put up points-wise going into next season, and how much money do you think he'll ask for? But speaking on that, let's hop into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. Comment today comes from Just a Canuck, and he says, I wish we had still had cap friendly. I do too. It's not just you. Is there a replacement? If you go to Puckpedia is basically a replica of Cap Friendly. It's not as great as an interface, but they are putting in a lot of stuff, and I've been loving looking through it. Obviously, a guy that's been looking at Cap Friendly for a few years needed his fix, so I finally found Puckpedia. It's worth checking out. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to go down and leave a comment. You could be just like a Canuck today and be comment today on the next episode. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friend. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffen. Take care.